What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's the one and only James Williams Darkwaters, and I'm back with another phenomenal interview with a woman that I have grown to love. And I'm going to explain to you guys why I've grown to love her. I haven't spent a lot of time talking to her, but I've grown to love and appreciate the abilities that she has. When we had the Dogman Camps project up and running before it ran into its wall and faltered and all the drama that everybody knows about, Wendy was a person who could literally look at the screen and find these Bigfoot at the drop of a dime. And I thought it was absolutely amazing that she had an eye for seeing this. And it wasn't wrong. It was literally every time she sent me something, something was there. Sometimes I couldn't completely decipher what it was until she put lines around it. And then I'm like, holy crap, that's a face right there. But she has a marvelous eye for seeing these things. So we're going to talk to Wendy. We're going to get into how she developed that eye. We're going to get into her YouTube channel, Turquoise and Sasquatch. She has Bigfoot on her property. We plan on talking about that and how it's affected her and her family. And then we're going to have a little conversation about faith and from a Christian perspective, what we think these are and what may be some of the limitations they have and what we can do to get rid of them if we want to. But without any more further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to Miss Wendy. Well, reintroduce because she's been around. Miss Wendy Wilson. Wendy, how are you today?
I'm doing great, thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm actually honored to be here.
Thank you. I
And I
appreciate that.
appreciate you also.
No, thank you, Wendy. You're a phenomenal, amazing woman. I we wanted to highlight you in that article because one of the things that I've noticed, and this goes back to a conversation I had with Linda Godfrey. This had to be 4 years ago. We're talking about some of the things going on in the Dogman community and the cryptid community. And she said, James, if there's one thing I can ask you to do for me that you would do, she said, deal with one person in particular. And I'm not going to say that. And then she said, we need to figure out a way to have more women involved in this field. And if you can find a way to highlight women in this field, I think it's something that needs to be done. And I was like, you know what, Miss Linda, if anybody can pull that off, it's me. And I say, you have my word.
Mhm.
So you are one of the women
Thank
that
you.
come to mind. You really, really are. So let's start here.
Mhm.
How in the world are you able to see these things? Literally, how are you able to spot those with your eyes? Because you do it all the time.
Yes, I think the reason why is because when I first started finding footprints here, I started seeing like huge bare like feet on the grass. And I brought it to my husband's attention, and I'm like, there's like footprints here. And my stepson, and they were fresh, and footprints, and they were like, no, it's nothing. They didn't see it. So what I began to do was like I was actually seeing them with the naked eye, and I thought, I know that they're there. So I started taking pictures. So I took pictures constantly. And then I started to learn my property. I started to like kind of like know my trees, know the areas, and then I started to notice like the difference in like the shadows, just the difference. And even when I took a picture, there were some areas that look kind of blurry, in other areas that looked normal. So then I started focusing on the blurry areas. And then I started to see, faces and figures. Um, and basically, it just started because I wanted evidence. I wanted to say, look, I am seeing these things. Um, Something is here. And it was actually to prove it to kind of my husband, my family. Um, and then it was almost like to prove it to myself. No, you're not crazy. You are seeing these creatures. They are there. And then the minute I have really close friends that I trust, and I was sending them pictures, and they're from Texas, and they're Bigfoot believers. And at first, some of the pictures, they were like, well, they weren't really sure. But then the more I sent pictures, they were like, oh my gosh, there is something there. So that kind of got me to like, okay, I'm going to keep, and I took pictures, I take pictures everywhere. Um, then I started to notice like the features, like the deep brow area, the noses. Some have like more of a flat nose. Um, you were talking to Carrie, I believe it was yesterday or the day
Yes,
before,
that was
and
last night.
yeah, last night. Okay, so he had a picture there. Of course, the green face. You can clearly see the green face there. But there was the other one, um, and that one looked more like a round face, and the nose was like wide and almost flat. So you kind of notice like those features. Um, so it's kind of easier to pick out once you kind of get an idea of what you're looking for. So that's how come I started to kind of see, just because the brow area, it's thick, um, and some look more human like, and others look more, to me, more monkey like. So I think I just started taking a ton of pictures, and I can see, here on my property, for some reason, I can sense when they're around. I can sense where I need to point my camera, and then I just take pictures, and they're there.
So you can actually sense them, because Blue down in Florida, when we started
Hmm.
really talking day in and day out, I said, Blue, how do you find these things? He said, James, I can look at the woods and I feel them and I start taking pictures in the area where they are. And Blue would call it, he didn't call
Yes.
it zooming in. He said, I zoom in. He said, when I zoom in, they're there. And he said, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
where I'm at, I can see them. And he's like, I can go by my mother's
Yes.
house and they're there. And I can say, okay, something's looking at me. He snaps the picture and then he zooms in and
Yes.
it's there.
And I don't know what that is. I noticed I started to have that after I started seeing them with the naked eye. After, I don't know what happened. I don't know what, I felt, um, like I always feel like I'm being watched. Every time I go outside, I have a sense of something watching me. And I kind of look, and like he says, I know where to look. And I can sense that there's something there. And I take pictures, and there they are. I have no idea how I have that, because I didn't have that before. Um, I don't know if it was after. I mean, because I went a whole year living here, probably about a year and a half, um, or a little bit under a year and a half, and I didn't know anything. I didn't sense anything until I started finding footprints. And then it was like after started finding footprints, it's like the activity ramped up, and then I started seeing them, and it's almost like they were, coming to my property like daily on all fours. Every morning, I would walk outside. I would find footprints, either whether it was just like a foot or hand, like as if they came on all fours. Um, and it's almost like their activity ramped up. Um, so I don't understand that. I haven't been able to figure out yet, like how that happened. Were they aware that I was able to see them, and then maybe they thought, "Oh, she can see us," and then it's kind of like it picked up. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell
I
you
don't know
what.
what happened there.
It has to have something to do with bravery, in my opinion, because like even where I live now, there's some nights when I can go outside and I feel like something's watching me, and I'm in a city, and I can tell you where it's watching me from,
Mhm.
but I don't have the kahunas to take my cell phone and take a picture because I really don't want to see what's watching me. I'm like, I know
Yeah.
something's there. It just takes a certain level of bravery to actually do what you do and handle it the way you handle it. It really, really, really does. And I think you just develop the eye for seeing them. That's why I called you the eagle eye. I mean, there's people
Mm.
who would send me photos, and I stopped watching and looking at people's photos because they would send me a photo and it would be nothing in it, but they would send me 20, 30 photos and there's nothing there, right? Then you
Mhm.
started sending photos and I'm like, no, there's something there. There's something there. There's something in this one. Just like the last one with the portal. That's I,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah,
freaking portal.
that one. And the funny thing about that one is I take lots of pictures, and that one was still, I mean, it wasn't even dark yet. It started to get dark. So I really didn't think to really look at it because I'm thinking nothing is going to be there. It's not even dark. Like, I mean, we had just started the fire. And when I was looking back, cuz Sean had a show about like, you know, questioning, does Dogman exist? And then I thought, well, I actually captured eye shine, and the eye shine is really weird, because it almost looks like it's on the sides of the head. It's not like straight like a human, or, you know, somebody said it doesn't look like it's a Bigfoot just because their eyes are more, you know, on like the front. The eye shine almost looked like it was on the sides. And that creeped me out. So I started kind of looking for more pictures that I had like two sets of eyes. And the ones that I had two sets of eyes in, they looked the same, like they were almost on the side of the, you know, head. So anyway, I was looking for that, you know, eye shine when I typed in, you know, because I have so many pictures, I guess, on my cloud, and I typed in like um I can't remember, campfire. I think that's what I typed in. So it, you know, it brings up all my pictures that I take with, like, you know, when we're having a fire. And then that one came across, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's something there. And it actually does look like something on all fours. And it's like, and it's like almost like a circle of smoke, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I didn't hear anything. I was out there with my husband. We didn't hear or see anything. But in that picture, I actually showed it to him, and he's the one that said, "It looks like there's a portal, and it's not coming into this realm. It's almost like it's looking from
Like
that
it's
realm
peeking
into this
in
one."
from that realm. Yep, that's exactly what I saw. It was like it was looking. It's like the portal opened and it was looking from that realm at into what you guys were doing, but it hadn't come all the way through.
Yes,
That was
it had
crazy.
not come. Yeah, I thought that just blew me away because I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And it was huge.
Yeah, it was
Um,
massive. That,
and
that man,
yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, Wendy. I've seen a lot of photos that you've sent. I've seen the stuff from Dogman cams that you were highlighting. That one right there, I was like,
Mhm.
whoa, that's a portal. And that's something like it looked like a head coming out of the portal. I was like, and then on top of that,
Yes.
it's huge. It's extremely
Mhm.
huge.
Yeah. And like, where do I put that? You know, like, I don't know how to explain that kind of stuff. I mean, I've seen them and they are huge. And the funny thing is, like, I've mentioned it to my family, my mom, and you know my windows. They're those triangle windows. They're like 9 feet up in the air, and
Yes.
I've caught faces there. And they're like, "Whoa, what are they standing on?" And I'm thinking, I don't know, but that face is huge and it's taking most of that window. So it's not like it's not small because our faces are tiny. If we when we take pictures in front of those windows, our faces are small. These faces are huge. So I mean, I don't know if they're standing on, I mean, I don't think they're standing on anything. I just think they're huge.
Nah,
But it's
they're
kind of
freaking
hard.
massive.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. So, we have this
Mhm.
activity on your property. I know for a fact, when we first started like the dog man cams thing, and I was saying, hey, talk to your husband and see if he wanted to put a camera in there, and he was like, nah, I don't know if I want to put one
Yes.
there because we got family members out there.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was a
Mhm.
skeptic of these things at this point in time. Where is he now as it pertains to this activity? I know at one point in time he was like, nah, that's
Oh
not
my
it.
gosh, no,
Where's he at
it
now?
doesn't, yeah, he's changed. He's definitely, he knows that they're out there now. At the time when you and I were talking, and I was excited because 'cause I'm like, "Yeah, I would love to, see," and he was like, "No," because he was like, "There what if they don't, there's nothing out there, and we're gonna be out there working, and it's gonna be strangers looking into, our property," and then after that, because I talked to him a second time, and I'm like, "I think it would be a good idea." And he was like, "Well, what if they catch something?" And then he was like, "Our life is gonna change. It's not gonna be quiet anymore. People are gonna get curious, and they're gonna wanna know and see where we live." Um, so I understood that. I understood, where he was coming from. So at that point, I figured, well, he's worried that it is gonna catch something. He knows that there's something here. Now, we've had kind of encounters recently, And I believe that he's had also, he just didn't tell me. I got sick probably in 2018. It's 2018, and he was worried about me, and he couldn't sleep, so he would stand on our deck. I guess it would be like midnight, 1 in the morning, just because he couldn't sleep. He was worried, and this is the time that he did when that's when he told me he had something happen. He said that he was out there and he heard like pebbles being kind of picked up and dropped. And then he heard like a little like a grunt. He actually got scared and he said, I'm out here. I guess we were all sleeping. And he was like, if something happens to me, nobody's gonna know. So he came in the house. And I think it happened to him 2 nights in a row. And then he didn't go back out um at night anymore. So he's heard it. He's also has seen shadows. Um, and then he had about 2 weeks ago, he had something where he thought, I mean, I don't know if it was just a regular animal. Um, he was he had been working in the garden and it started to get dark already, and he's putting everything away, and then he's walking through our woods, and our dog took off chasing. He thought it was an animal, but then after that, like it was dark and he didn't have a flashlight or anything, but whatever it was approach like it was coming towards him. And he was
Wow.
like, yeah, I mean, he didn't have any, like, he had like, it was like a fork that he was working in the garden with. That's all he had. And he actually ended up hitting it we have like some stepping slabs there. And he hit it on that. And it actually sounded like a gunshot because I was on the porch and I heard it, but I thought it was our neighbor. And he did it 3 times and it sounded like 3 gunshots. And after he did that, like, it stopped, but he didn't know where it went. Like, he had no clue, like, he didn't hear it come forward or leave. It was just gone. And we went out looking, to see, because at this time he's thinking it's an animal. Um, we didn't hear. I mean, we both of us kind of went out and were walking the woods, and um, we did hear something maybe like 15 minutes later because we were walking and we both heard something. I thought I heard something coming on all fours, like towards us. And he actually said, it's galloping towards us.
Wow.
And yeah, it I don't know how to explain it, but I know that people, I mean, would be fearful. I didn't feel fear. Like, I didn't, it was almost like I don't see it. Like, whatever it is, it stopped. It didn't, and it was kind of close to where we were standing. Um, and we kind of stood there silent for a few minutes, and we didn't hear it anymore. So we kind of walked to where we heard the sound, and there was nothing there. We walked the property. Um, we stood out there for like, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, and we didn't hear it again. So, I mean, I don't know what it was, but we both of us heard it. And he's heard more stuff to where I think he is a believer. Like, he takes me to Bigfoot conferences, and I mean, he was like, when you were talking about, having like a YouTube channel and everything, I was like, oh, maybe I should do that. I can put my pictures on there. And he was like, yeah, if you want to do it. Then I'm like, oh my gosh, he's open to me doing that and talking about it.
Wow. That's a
So
big turnaround right there because he was like, nah, we'll
yes,
pass.
he was, yeah.
He's like,
Yeah,
nah,
because
bro,
he
we're going to
at
pass.
the beginning, yeah, he did not want to have anything to do. I mean, he didn't even look at my pictures. He did not look at my pictures. The first time he actually looked at my pictures was we were going to a Bigfoot conference. And I'm like, I want to take pictures because I want to show because researchers are there. And I wanted to show them and I wanted to say, what do you think? Is this something? So I had him print them out for me on his computer, and that was the first time he ever saw. Like, and I think I saw his face, and it's almost like he didn't realize the stuff that I had caught.
Right.
So,
So it reality really sank in and set in on him, saying, "Whoa, this is something that
yes.
even I can see." Yeah, that's
Yeah.
uh
Mhm.
that's a tough spot to be in. But I tell you what, I think it's amazing that he's supporting you and helping you, because I remember you saying he's a sponsor of your channel and he got you all your equipment. I think it's
Yes,
amazing.
he got my stuff. Yeah, and he's kinda like, he lets me, do and he'll ask me, "How's it going?" Um, I'm not very like, when it comes to the tech stuff, I don't know. I'm more like arts and crafts, but,
Right.
I'm trying. Yeah, but
Well, no,
he's
it's
very
okay.
supportive.
And this whole thing is a learning process. It really, really is a learning process. It's the learning of the technology, then it's the learning of the communication and how it's supposed to flow, and how the words are supposed to flow out of your
Mhm,
mouth. It's really a learning process, but you're going to be phenomenal at it. And I firmly believe that as time passes, and certain people kind of jettison off and grow bigger, you're going to be huge
mhm,
in this community, because I talk to everybody, Wendy. I talk to
mhm.
pretty much every big host of every big podcast, and I talk to everybody. We talk about evidence. We talk about all these crazy things, but none of them have an eye for it. I even sent some of your pictures to Dave Schrader,
Oh,
because
wow.
he has connections with a bunch of TV shows, and
Mhm,
I grouped them in with a bunch of other pictures, and I said, Dave, what do you
mhm.
think? And so he called me back and he says, well, this one I see a face, this one I see a face, this one I see a face. These are blurry. Every last one where he saw a face, it was one of yours. It was either one of the
Oh,
ones that
wow.
you sent me before or something you caught on
Mhm.
Dogman Cam. So, nah, you have an eye for this. You really, really do. And just be encouraged and keep on going, and keep on pursuing it, and just don't let the algorithm deter you, because YouTube's algorithm is really, really unfair the way it
Yes.
does things.
Yeah, and I have to figure out because right now it's our busy season because we have, like, my gosh, we have to take care of land and garden and the house. We have a big house. So it's almost like, or by the time I'm done, I'm exhausted.
Right.
Um, and I do wanna, I know I have a loyal following right now, and I have, I love, all the people that comment, and I appreciate every one of them. And it's like I wanna be able to keep in touch with them and let them know, what's going on, and, um, I get so many positive messages, so that kinda gets me, it keeps me, like, encouraged to keep going.
Well, I'll make a suggestion to you. So instead of sitting down and
Mhm,
doing it formally like you're doing, if you just want to keep in
mhm.
contact, just download the app on your phone, and when you're out in the garden, shoot a short and say, "Hey guys, I'm out in the garden and I'm growing. These are tomatoes, blah blah blah. And I heard something
Oh,
over here today, and I just wanted to show you guys the area." And so you're in constant communication with your audience because you're constantly
I should
updating
do
them.
that. Yeah, because, we had this happen with my husband. We were in the garden. Well, we're always in the garden, but this particular day, um, we were both in there, and this doesn't happen, like, they're very quiet here. But this particular, day, we were in there and we heard something big, like, coming. It was breaking branches, like, it sounded loud, and we both looked at each other because we both heard it, and we looked towards it was, like, towards the end of our woods. There's a bunch of brush, at the end of our wood line, and we're looking, we don't see anything, and it's like, "Oh my gosh," like, we can hear it. We just don't see it. And after, it stopped because we were looking at it. We were looking at that area, and then it stopped. So I asked him, like, "Do you wanna go check it out?" And he was like, "Yeah." So we both walked over, and we were, looking, but we had so much rain lately that the mosquitoes are, like, really, really bad, and they started swarming us once we got to the wood line. So it was like we were only there for, like, a few minutes, and then it's like, "Alright, we're gonna turn back," and we didn't see anything. But
No,
that doesn't happen here.
no, I got you. I was thinking, I was talking to one of these guys. I think it was Carry On or one of them, and I was thinking,
Mhm.
if you really want to try and find some Bigfoot DNA, what you probably need to do is harvest mosquitoes in the area where they are, and then start sampling
Mhm.
the blood inside the mosquitoes. And you should, because they gotta feed on these things, they gotta bite them, right?
Right.
So you should be able
Yeah.
to harvest the mosquitoes and get the DNA. Then I was like, I should do that. Then I was like, that sounds real expensive. I was like, I don't think I'm going to do that. You know what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
you think about it, that would be a good way to find some DNA, because they have to feed on blood. And if you're not out there, they're
Right.
feeding on animal blood and deer blood and those things out there. They definitely biting them. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
They're trying to.
Well, I did find hair. Okay. I had at the time this one year. This is probably like 2019, 2020. I had hanging baskets. There's those hooks that you kind of put in the ground and then you hang the hanging baskets on it. That was in the a front of my house, right by our sidewalk and our front door.
Hmm.
And I was watering my plants one morning, and then I was watering the hanging baskets when I noticed a chunk of hair on these hanging baskets had like the coconut husk. You know how they have like it's the I guess metal wire, and then there's like a coconut husk, and then you can put like the dirt and then the flour. Well, on the coconut husk, there's like this chunk of hair that I found, and I'm like, that was high up off the ground. I mean, it's a hanging basket. It probably came down to my shoulder, where like the bottom of the hanging basket. I was thinking it can't be like a dog. It can't be like like an animal because it wouldn't be that high. So I did collect it, and I do have it in a like paper envelope. But I have found hair around here. I mean, I don't know. I heard that it was expensive to get the DNA
I don't know. I
tests
mean, if you
done,
want to.
and
If you want to try and get it tested, we probably can find somebody to test it. We'll talk about it. Somebody, if
okay.
somebody knows somebody and get it tested, or maybe I can reach out to someone like a Melba Kitchenman that's already doing that stuff, and maybe we can get in contact with them and have them tested. But we can work it out. I didn't know you had that, so
Okay.
we can definitely check
Oh
it
yeah,
out.
I've also fingerprints. They leave fingerprints on my siding and just different places. And I have a friend, he said, get a Q-tip, kind of go around the fingerprints, and then of course wear gloves and get the Q-tip, and then put it in an envelope and collect it and just keep it, documented. So I have a lot of like that kind of stuff, just because I've gone. I mean, they leave like dermal ridges, and
Wow.
I mean, I think they're like oily because I've tried, like on my siding, I've gone with a water hose and it does not come off. Like, it's hard to get that stuff off. On the windows, like, my husband's washed the windows. I mean, it does not come off easily.
And we're talking about like he's scrubbing it with soap and water and it doesn't come off, or he just sprayed water
Yeah.
on it.
Well, I've just sprayed water just with the water hose, but he's cleaned the windows. We had a thumbprint. The window, it's probably about 7 feet high, and there was a thumbprint left. And that one, my husband scrubbed it. Like, he was cleaning the windows. He cleans the windows like in the spring and fall. And he was scrubbing it, and there was still a little bit residue left on there. Like, it
That
didn't
that's
completely take it
creepy.
off with soap and water.
That's creepy, man. Like that's too much for me. That's you guys are bold, because I would be like, y'all touching my house. You're leaving fingerprints on my window. I had to be
Yeah,
out there. I
it's
would spaz out.
yeah, it's something you have. It's one of those things where you have to. I've adjusted my life to that. And when we bought this house, he used to love to walk outside, and he would walk like at midnight without a flashlight. Like, he would just walk the property. And then when I started mentioning that there were things here, he doesn't do that anymore. Like, he'll take a big flashlight, and he doesn't walk it as often as he used to. And it's just, I don't know. I guess uh, I've adjusted my life. Like, I love windows. I used to love windows, and have the windows kind of, I mean, we still have them open just because we need the light in here. But as soon as it starts getting dark, everything gets shut down. The house gets closed down, and we're in. Like we're not outside.
Yeah, I know it's just that's life altering. Let me ask you a few questions
Hmm.
about this house, right? So when you
Yeah.
guys first acquired this house, did you build it or did you buy it from someone?
We bought it. It was already like, I mean, it was already had a huge garden. Um, we actually were looking at the house next door to this, and we were gonna put an offer on the house next door, and then we kind of came across this one, and my husband liked it. He was like, "Oh, we should look into that one also." At the time, it was already under contract. So, which the funny thing is, about I think it was maybe like a week later, a realtor called us and said that the contract fell through on this house. That we were able, if we wanted to come look at it, we could. So we did. We came to look at it. We loved the land. It looked like a park to us. So we bought it. Um, but it was already built. Like the owners, it was they were only. I don't think they had any. They just had pets, and they were really big into gardening because their garden was huge, and they had all kinds of vegetables and everything in there.
Wow, and it wasn't anything like you guys got the house at a steal. It was full price. Wasn't no steep discount. It didn't seem like they were trying to run or anything, right?
Well, we made an offer for a lot less of what they were asking for, and they took it.
Yeah, there we go.
Um, yeah, so at the time we thought, "Oh my gosh," we thought,
We got a
we
deal.
we got a really great deal, yeah. Um, the thing about it is I don't know, I mean, they knew I had children, so you would think that if they knew that there was something was here, they would have said, "Oh, she's coming." I mean, my kids weren't little, they were already, like, older, I think they were, like, probably 10 and 15, but still, you know, I would have thought that they would have said, "Hey," or I mean, I don't know. And none of the neighbors, like, when I first started, my husband actually started asking them, "Hey, is there anything strange around here? Are there any Bigfoots?" And they laughed. The neighbors laughed at us. So we figure, well, we don't want to be the crazy neighbors that think that there's stuff here, but nobody else seems to, except for one neighbor. We have one that actually believes that like they exist.
And
Everybody
how
else is like,
close is that
no.
person to you? How close are they to you?
Okay, at the time, it was an empty lot between us, and now a guy bought the empty lot, and he's got his house. So there's one lot in between us, and then it's his house. So we're very like close.
Yeah, that's the whole situation is suspect. So when you guys went there, this house was up for sale. The house next door was up for sale, and you guys are looking
Yeah.
at both those houses. These people lay
Mhm.
up here and take a reduced offer. They take it and they roll out. Yeah, that whole situation sounds like everybody knows what's going on, and at least in that
Yeah.
that little one four house range of that block, from left to right, people know what's going on. I always think
Mhm.
it's amazing when people say, they talk to their neighbors and their neighbors laugh like they're crazy.
Yeah, they laughed. Yeah, they laughed at us, and I mean, I figure, okay, I'm not gonna bring, I don't want to be like the new neighbors that are like the crazy new neighbors that think that there's Bigfoot here. So I never brought it back up until I only talked to the one neighbor that believes that they exist, and he's heard things here. So him and I do talk, and I send him pictures, but that's it.
Well, what kind of laugh? Because there's so much that goes into when you're talking to people. So, for example, there's different laughs, right?
Mhm.
There's a laugh like bent over at the waist, laughing like you cracked the joke. Then there's that uncomfortable laugh, like I don't know what to say to you, so I'm just gonna laugh it off. Was it like
Mhm.
that kind of like? Like I don't know what I'm gonna say, but I'm just gonna laugh at it because I don't want to. Because it may be that they don't want to sound crazy and they don't want to come in agreement. What kind of laugh was
Yeah.
it?
It wasn't like, like, oh, it wasn't that kind of laugh. It was almost like in between, because um I was standing next to my husband when we asked, because it was all the guys, the guys were kind of standing there, and he was like, so hey, and he was talking to them, and these men they're older. um they're older. Some of them were like, military retired, and they were just like, no, like those things don't exist. And it wasn't like ridicule laugh, but it wasn't either like, oh, like a nervous, almost like an in between.
Kind of like, I don't want to believe that exists, so no, those things don't exist. Like, yeah, I'm just gonna
Yeah,
like, I'm throwing it out of my mind. Forget about it. No, that doesn't exist. Like,
yeah,
I'm not sure if it do
yes,
exist or not, but I'm gonna throw this
yeah,
out of my mind, and I'm not gonna talk about it. That kind of laugh.
yes. And the funny thing is that same, because we actually had gone, we have like a common lot where they have like activities, and this is they were having some kind of fall activity, and that's the day that we asked. And I was like done, and me and the kids were like, we'll just go home. So my husband brought us home, and he wanted to go back because the guys were drinking. And he went back, and he said that they were, I mean, only a few of the men stayed. So he was like, they were kind of just, talking and having a couple of beers, when they heard like tree, like branches. So like something was walking, and our neighbor, the one that believes that they're here, my husband said he was like done. He was like, all right, I'll see you guys later, and he went home. He was gone. So he stayed with another, I think it was only him and another late neighbor that were left behind. And my husband, because again, he did at the time. I mean, I know that he believed what I said, but I don't think it really sunk in, because he was like, "Yeah, we kept hearing these things, but I guess they were just having beers, and they didn't like they were just there talking." And I'm thinking they probably wanted them to leave, and they were trying to kind of say, "Hey," but they stayed. And I mean, the other guy didn't say anything. He just kind of stayed there and kept drinking.
And that boils down to some people's philosophy. Like Kerry's interview last night, he went into that. Like, if the context
Mhm.
of your mind has not wrapped around the fact that some things like that is possible to exist, then
Mhm.
you justify it away. You can be standing out there around the fire with your friends drinking beers, and you hear something, you say, "Oh, that's nothing. I'm not going to worry about it." And there's a little bit of
Mhm.
protection in ignorance, because you're ignorant to it and you just don't worry about
Yes.
it. Um,
And I think my husband was at that point, like in the beginning, because he was trying to tell me, I think he was worried that I was going to be like, we're moving, we're getting out of here. I don't want to be here. Because he kept playing, oh, there's nothing. It's probably because, I kept saying, I see them. Like I've taken pictures. And he was like, well, if you look at something, it's almost like looking up at the clouds. Some people can see faces in anything. And that's what he was telling me. But I'm like, no, I can see there's faces there. But he just kind of dismissed it. And now, I mean, things have changed. Like he knows that they are out there now.
Yeah, and what you're talking about is somebody rationalizing it. Let me ask you a couple of more questions about that neighborhood. How's the
Hmm.
turnover in that neighborhood? Are your neighbors still the same neighbors? Are you seeing people move in and out rapidly? Are houses going up for sale, coming off for sale, then going back up for sale, or is it relatively stable in the neighborhood? The families are the families that's been there for, let's say, the past 4 or 5 years.
Well, when we first moved here, there were not many new people. Uh, we were considered one of the younger families. The ones that had been here since the beginning. It used to be an apple orchard, and whenever they subdivided it, and they started selling at the lots, we had quite a number of neighbors that bought in, and they had been here. They Some neighbors had been here for like 30 years. Um, Recently, we have started to see new neighbors because um, a lot of the lots were not. They were not. I guess they were sold, but the people who own them, they didn't build anything. So there's a lot of new construction going on. So a lot of the lots have new owners now, and they're building houses. Um, we have had some, so it is a little bit more activity now. Um, but and that has been probably in the last year or two. But there's still a lot of older, like people that have been here for quite some time.
Well, you said something real significant, and it really stands out. So the houses are built on an apple orchard, which is a food
Hmm.
source and a favorite Bigfoot food source. And so here we come, us humans decide, hey, we're gonna build houses on this old
Yeah.
apple orchard. And they're like, oh, really, really, bro? So you just gonna tear down my trees and take my
Hmm.
food, and you're gonna put houses here? And that's man. When you start putting the pieces to the puzzle together on this one, it's really lining up between the evidence of the photos, the eyewitness evidence, and then the historical background of the area. It's starting to line up like it's definitely some Bigfoot or maybe something else there, but it's something there, and it's lining up
Hmm.
perfectly for it to make sense that something would be there. That's kind of terrifying. Have you guys had anything like any encounters in the house or at the house that kind of crossed the line? Like something that you were like, you and your husband were like, no, see, this is going too far. Have you ran into anything like that?
No, I have not, and I've had a friend that said that they have come into her home. I have not, but
Wait.
I
What? Enter a home in your neighborhood?
oh, no, no, this is,
Oh.
I think you know her, Claudia.
Oh, yeah, I know
She's,
Claudia. Okay, yeah.
yeah, she's mentioned that, that they've come into her home. No, not in my neighborhood. I, I've just because I've had a lot of things with me personally before I even moved here, where there were things that I dreams and just sleep paralysis. So what I've done is I pray. I pray and I've asked if it is from God, then I'm okay. Let God, it is welcome at my home. If it is not from God, then I do not accept any. I want, I've asked God to keep it out of my home. So I have not had anything like that I would feel like it's inside my house. Like
About like
the only thing
outside the
is
house
just
doing
kind of,
something, beating on the
yeah.
walls, anything like that?
I really haven't had that either. I know that they peek in the windows just because I've taken pictures of them looking in, and I have seen them looking in. Um, they do tap, not not constantly. Every now and then, they'll make a noise outside. If I'm by myself, like in a room, in an area, they'll let me know. Like they'll make a sound outside. It's almost like they're letting me know, "Hey, I'm here." Um, or like if we're in bed with my husband, we have heard taps, but it's not something that is bangs. Like it's just like a tap, or we'll hear something get thrown, like a little pebble or something, but like one pebble, and that's it. It doesn't happen often. So I think I'm lucky when it comes to that because we don't have that where they're constantly, traumatizing me or anything. It's just every now and then.
Yeah, I've spoken to people where they're just constantly digging at them,
Yes.
aggravating them, tapping on
Yeah.
windows, beating on. It's really people say beating on the walls, but they don't really beat. They slap on the walls of the house. And it's like a
Yes.
gigantic pow. It's like a hand slaps on the
Yeah.
wall. It's not really a
And
fist
I
ball beating.
right. And I have had I heard a slap. Um One night, we were all ready for bed. I was the last one up and I'm turning the lights off and I'm walking into the bedroom, and then where our bathroom is, our master bathroom, I heard a slap, and my dog was already laying down, and she jumped up and she was barking and barking. That was the only time that I heard a slap, and this probably happened like 2016. It was the only time. Um, Again, the other times had been just like a little tap. It hasn't been. Like I said, I've heard stories where people are like so terrified because it's like constant banging. It's nothing like that. It's almost to let me know, hey, I'm here, but it doesn't happen often.
No, there's definitely people who encounter that where it's like it's letting them know it's around, and it's like, hey, I'm here. Don't
Hmm.
freak out. I'm around. If you
Yeah.
bump into me, don't trip. I'm here, and then they go on about their business. So, what about the fruit in the
Yes.
garden? Have you noticed any food missing from the garden?
Yes. And I have a lot of vegetables and fruit, and we have fruit trees. The only thing that we don't have missing, I have two cherry trees in the front, and we planted them probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I've only gotten a handful of cherries out of, and I know they have a lot of flowers, and I see but that could be birds. That could be birds taking the cherries or just otherwise, squirrels. So it could be anything, but that's the only thing that has been taken. Deer do try to get our peaches um, in the garden. I don't see anything missing. We always have an abundance of things where I have to give stuff away.
Wow. Okay.
So they don't touch. I mean, I know that they go in the garden because I have found footprints in the garden, and I found bones, which is like the craziest thing, that there are bones like in the garden. Other animal bones, like whether it be like deer ribs, um,
What?
vertebrae. Yeah,
Like they
it's
just
just
sitting there
weird.
munching on the bone, watching you, or is it just like old
I
bones?
guess.
Is
Like,
there still
well,
meat on the
they look
bone?
like they're old. No, no, no.
Oh,
Well, I
okay.
have found, not in the garden. The garden, it looks like old bones, but I'm thinking they just appear. So, I mean, how did they get there? Now, I have found like just um, with it still having kind of meat throughout the property, but we have coyotes, we have foxes, so it could be other things. Um, I I don't know about the bigger animals. Like I found the hide of a deer. Basically, it looked like the back end, but it was only like the leather and the fur, and it was left on like we have a gravel road that goes through our woods. It was left right there in the middle of the gravel road. So, I mean, I don't know what kind of animal would just leave it looked like leather, and then the fur of a deer, and it was a big piece. It was just left there. Also, I have found like just the head of a deer on the front of our
Mm-mm.
property. So, I
Mm-mm.
mean, yeah,
That's
that I
crazy.
don't like to come across.
How was it? Just laid on the ground? Where was it?
Yeah, just the head of the deer was just laid on the ground. It was just there. I found the legs of like it almost looked like the little ones. It was just little legs of like the little fawns. It was almost like tossed um, on our property, like on the grass. Also, like on our road, basically just on our street, right in front of our property. It was just almost like a leg, and this one looked like a large size leg from like a deer. It just almost like they kind of just dropped it there on the middle of the road.
Man,
So
I'm not now. I
yeah, I
understand
don't know.
why he didn't want a camera. If I man, I wouldn't want to. If I had that kind of activity, I honestly would say I
Yeah,
don't. I don't think I want to come to terms with this. The fear of actually seeing something drop a deer head, like literally walk by and just drop a deer head. Man, once that image is in your mind, you can't go outside
yeah.
anymore. So no, I understand where he like you just can't go outside anymore because you know, oh my God, I
Well,
understand exactly
exactly.
where the man was. I understand, I understand exactly where he was.
Because he
You
likes
got
to
to
be
come to terms with that.
outside. Yeah, yeah. And I think, and he doesn't even now. Like I know my family said, "Oh, you should put those, doorbell cameras." And we have one trail camera, and then we kind of move it around and place it different areas. But I think, and I know he did mention that we were going to put some like on our deck, but we haven't done it yet. It's been, I don't know, it's been a year since he said we were going to put one on out there. But I think it is. I think it's one of those things where like, I think that if you see it, we're not going to want to be out there.
No, I'm
I mean,
pretty
I don't
sure.
know. I see it, and yeah,
Yeah, but Wendy, for example, Wendy, like you get the photos, you had that, but once you start getting like the stuff we were capturing on Vault's property, where we saw that thing walk up, it was
yeah,
blinking his eyes. Like, come on, man! Like, if you know that's there and you got it on video and you have to face that,
yeah,
it changes everything. I understand, and he wants to, and you guys, not he, you guys want to enjoy that property, and so far they haven't
yeah.
done anything. So it's kind of like, why
No,
aggravate
they
them?
right, right, and that's the thing. Like they have, and I know my dad, because at the beginning I was like terrified. I was so scared. And I contacted you first when I started, you know, taking videos of my windows. When I first found the first face on there, you were the first one I contacted because I
Hmm.
was so scared, and you reassured me I was okay. And I was like, okay, okay, that it made me feel a lot better. And then I showed it to my family. And then, my dad also said, if they wanted to hurt you, they would come in, and, take you. Or if you walk outside, like, they would definitely harm you, but they haven't done that. So, it made me feel a lot better.
Yeah, I
Just
mean, it's
because,
clear that they don't want to. They could have hurt either one of y'all at any point in time. So
yes,
it's clear they
yeah,
don't want to hurt you. What they're doing, why they're doing it, is the issue. And
yeah,
truthfully, if I got a big giant monster outside and he ain't really trying to hurt me, and I can't
hmm,
run him off, so guess what, bro? Me and you gonna have to come
right,
to an agreement. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? You gonna be peeking in on me. I'm gonna
yeah,
be walking through the woods. We're gonna have some kind of agreement, big dog. And I gotta go where I gotta go, and you gotta go where you gotta go. So I mean, you
yeah.
gotta learn to live with it. Or the only other option is to move. And I'm pretty sure you guys love that
To
place,
move.
and you
Yeah,
don't
we
want to
we've
move.
worked very hard. Yeah, we've worked very hard to kind of keep our areas nice, and now we're trying to grow food and everything. So it's one of those things where we're already established here. And I know my husband basically says, if they want to have the property at night, then so be it. It's almost like he basically said it's going to be one of those things where you live and let live. So let them be out there as long as they don't bother us or do anything, basically, I guess, break anything, or if they don't, start being a menace, then they're fine. Let them run around and hide and, you know, be in the trees, and just let them be out there.
No, I think that's a smart way to look at it. And then I'm thinking, if the neighborhood is constantly being developed, the more people get there, they're going to be forced to start doing some things differently because the more people in the neighborhood, the more people living around, the more people they have to interact with, and more particularly,
Mhm.
the more people they have to watch instead of watching you all the time. So they can go over and watch somebody
Right.
else. Because it seems like you guys are entertainment for them, except for when you get in their way when they're doing something and then they're like, okay, we need you to get out of here. You know what I'm saying? So it seems like
Mhm.
they're just
Mhm.
chilling, watching y'all, similar to what you're doing, snapping pictures and watching them. I really wish we had some kind of conclusive decision being made on what they were. I know I've talked to a lot of
Yeah.
cryptozoologists, and they've said what they thought they were. I've talked to people who said they're demons. I've talked to people who said they're aliens, and there's a case
Mhm.
for all of that. And the only reason why I don't want to know exactly what they are, like Carrie Arnold has made a good case for they're actually humans, feral
Mhm.
humans. I think the most important thing is how in the world do we communicate to them? Hey, bro, you're making me uncomfortable because they can clearly communicate to us when we're making them
Yeah.
uncomfortable. You know?
Yes. Now, and I think in the beginning, again, this happened back in 2016, where I was, kind of going outside to see if I could hear anything, and I was standing on the porch, and then I had it almost sounded like one of them was like in our wood line, and it was sniffing, and it was sniffing like so loud that I actually like my stomach got upset just to knowing that there's something out there sniffing. and it sounded like it was sniffing me from the wood line. So I um I came in just because I couldn't, my stomach got all upset and I had to go use the bathroom. And then the next day, I basically went out there and said, do not scare me. And I said it out loud. And when I'm outside, like if I'm, by myself, I'll just say out loud, do not scare me. And for some reason, I guess maybe they understand because they, they're quiet. Like ever since then, like I didn't until now that we heard with my husband, um, when they were breaking branches and then we heard something galloping towards us. Those were two incidents, but other than that, they're very quiet. So
And
I
you
do
know
think
what?
they do understand.
I'm pretty sure they do understand because I've talked to so many witnesses that have communicated, "Hey man, stop,"
Hmm.
and they will stop, or "Hey, you're making me
Yeah.
uncomfortable," and or especially like just recently, I talked to a gentleman. He went to his uncle's house. His uncle was a drunk and had all these different problems, but his uncle has had Bigfoot on this property, on their family property, since they were children, right? And so he goes to stay
Hmm.
with his uncle. He doesn't know that he's not supposed to burn the trash at night. He goes out there to burn the trash, sets a pile of trash on fire, and he said, "Man, it sounded like a zoo out there when I did it." I ran back
Oh
inside. He
wow.
said, "My uncle came outside with a shotgun and walked out and said, 'Hey, this is my nephew. He doesn't know any better. Leave him alone.'" They kept on making noises, so he shot the shotgun in the air. And he said, "Man, it was like he got their attention with the shotgun." And he said, "Hey, leave my nephew alone. He doesn't know any better. We're gonna make this right." And then the next morning, he made that boy go with him to the market, buy 5 bags of apples, and drop
Oh
apples
wow.
on their tree line. So I was like, "Bro, what did you do?" He said, "Man,
So
I just cut the bags open and dropped all the apples." And he said, "We left for 15 minutes and came back." He was like, "Dude, it was 50 apples gone." And he said after that, he could
wow.
go outside at any point in time at night. He would hear them, but they wouldn't make any noise. He could do whatever he wanted to do, but it wasn't a
Uh huh.
problem. So I think they clearly do understand what we're saying
Yeah.
because they've been around listening to us forever.
Right. And I do think that because, like I said, I know I've said it and they don't make any noise. Like if I'm out there, I mean, I know that they're there, like, and I have seen them with a naked eye. So I know they're there, but they haven't done anything, to scare me. And it is kind of scary seeing them. Like the little ones, I'm okay. I can see them and I'm fine. The bigger ones are kind of scary looking. So those once I see the bigger ones, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm going in and I'm done for the day.
No,
Just
no,
because they're huge.
they're huge. They
Yeah.
are huge. Like those faces we were
Yeah.
capturing on those cameras were massive,
Yes. Yes.
massive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, massively intimidated. Oh man, look, it's going on an hour, Wendy. Let's do this before we run out of time.
Mm-hmm.
Tell
Yeah.
everybody where they can find you. I don't know if you have a Facebook, if you got a Twitter, if you got an Instagram,
Actually,
but tell everybody where they
I
can
do
find you.
not. I do have a Facebook, but I don't put anything that, this is only like my YouTube. All I have is YouTube at the moment. Everything else, like I don't, I still have people around me that they're, I don't know if I want them to know what's going on.
Right.
So I only have YouTube and that's like my little outlet. um, that's about the only thing. And then I have a private group with, just family and Sean is in there. But that's, just like a small where I can just kind of put up, if anything happens like today, I'm like, I'll put it on there. But it's YouTube would be the only thing that I have at the moment.
All
And
right.
it's turquoise and Sasquatch.
All right. So it's turquoise and Sasquatch. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're here on YouTube, because I'm releasing this whole thing on YouTube, and you
Mhm.
like what you've heard, and honestly, if you want to follow someone who gets real evidence, I'm not talking about like blurry pictures. I'm talking about somebody who has real evidence that has an eye for this, a proven eye. It's not like, oh, I think I can see him. No, we know she can see him. She's been on Sasquatch Chronicles. She's been all over the place talking about Bigfoot and the photographs she's found. In the near future, if I can help her, she's going to be a lot of other places talking about it as well. you need to go ahead and subscribe to Wendy's channel. Head on over. I'm gonna put the link in the description. You guys head over, become subscribers, help her grow, hit the 1,000 mark, and go beyond. Because it's one thing that we need to do. We highlight a lot of personalities in this field. And a lot of them are male personalities, and that's cool because those guys are out in the woods. But we got to give the sisters some love in this as well because they have certain talents and gifts that need to be highlighted. And I'm going through the process of highlighting women who actually are real investigators. So show her some love on my behalf if you're a member of the Dark Waters family, and if you're a stranger and you just wandered in here and you're listening, you're trying to figure out what's going on. Trust me, just go ahead and do it, and don't be a jerk. Do it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the one and only Dog Waters. We're wrapping this up. I'm going to have Wendy back again in a different capacity to talk about some other things. This was a fast hour because we started talking about encounters, but there were a couple other things we had on the table that we didn't get to, but that's fine. Time is on our side. We can talk about it later. This is Dog Waters. I'm out of here.